Hi there, this morning we are making royal icing. I'll be using the Wilton meringue powder. The recipe is actually right on the container. And we'll be doubling the recipe today, so I'm going to add 6 tablespoons of the meringue powder to my mixing bowl. So I have my water pre-measured out, and I'm just going to add a little bit of it to the meringue powder, and then we're going to mix that together. So you're going to see the screen go black and white for a moment. Anytime it's black and white, it means that I massively sped up the video. All right, next we're going to add in our powdered sugar. We're using a 2-pound bag. So always make sure that your beater is off when you're adding the powdered sugar in, and we're just going to dump the whole bag in here. Next, I'm going to be adding in my vanilla. Please note that any flavoring you're adding counts as a liquid, okay? And now we're going to add in our water. And we're going to turn this on low so that it doesn't make too big of a cloud. All right, we're just going to turn this on. We're going to let it run for a bit. On the back of the container here, it actually says to let it mix for 7 to 10 minutes. Now you will notice that as I turn this up, it gets very difficult for my old machine to mix it. It's too thick, it's too clumpy. So I'm actually going to add a bit of water to it. See how it jumps around. So I added just enough so that it wasn't such hard work for my machine to mix it. You can see we're black and white again, so this is highly sped up, you guys. As I said, the video here is sped up just so you don't have to watch it mix for 7 to 10 minutes. In reality, my mixer is set at about medium high as far as speed goes. You'll start to notice a change in the thickness and the sound of it moving around in the bowl. Alrighty, so it's been about 7 minutes. Let's take a look at it here. You'll notice that it's very thick, okay? There's very little that I do with this consistency of royal icing, but there are some fun tricks to do with it. So I am going to scoop out a little bit of this and save it for later on, and I'll show you how to use it. Okay, so we need to get this thinned out a bit. I want to take it to a thick piping consistency. So I will be adding just a little bit of water to it. At this point in the game, you guys, you should only be adding your water about a tablespoon at a time. I can't give you an exact amount of water that you're going to end up needing because it varies day to day depending on the weather, the temperature, all that sort of fun stuff that we have no control over. So I just add it a tablespoon at a time, mix it up, and keep checking my consistency. Okay, I'm going to add another tablespoon of water and keep it going. Alright, so I'm going to stop it and check the consistency again here. Notice how shiny it is, and you'll also see here how it holds its ridges. All right, but I still think I would like this to be just a little bit thinner, so we're going to add a little bit more water and mix it a little bit more. All right, let's stop this and take a peek at it. That's looking good. This is where I like it to be for a thick piping consistency. It acts a lot like buttercream at this stage, so I can use my piping tips with it and it will hold its shape. So I'm just going to scoop some of this out and save it for later. It's important to remember to cover your royal icing when it's not being used because it will start to crust when it's exposed to the air. It's also important to remember to label your bowls so that you know what consistency is in which bowl. Alrighty, so let's close her down, add another tablespoon of water, and set her spinning again. The next consistency I'm going for is an outline consistency. Now, when piping your cookies, if you're going to want your outline to be the same color as the rest of your cookie, as the flow part, then you will want to color that now, okay? The reason for that is because adding the liquid gel coloring counts as liquid. It will actually thin your icing some. So it's important to do that now and then thin down from there. Okay, so what you'll see here is that we're a little bit thinner. The icing still holds its ridges, but this is still too thick for outlining. So we're going to add some water and we're going to keep going. All right, what I'm about to do is my own lazy method of checking the consistency. I'm going to get some of this on my spatula and I'm going to tap the spatula against the bowl. And what I'm looking for is that any points that were in it can be knocked down with just a little bit of gentle tapping. And this is not quite where I want it yet, so we're going to add some more water and set her spinning again. All right, so we're checking this again. Okay, see down there, that point that's coming off the side of the spatula? And if I tap the spatula, I mean, the point falls off, but the frosting on that edge still stays at a point. And I don't really want those points. So let's add a little more water and keep it going a little bit longer. So now this time when I stop it, notice how the frosting just kind of relaxed into the bowl. And we'll just check it again here. I like this. This is looking really, really good to me. Okay. This is what I would consider a good outline consistency. So we're going to scrape some of this out and set it aside. Next, I want my flow consistency, and now I'm going to add my food coloring. The cookies I'm making with this, I'm not going to be outlining, so that's why I didn't color the frosting earlier. I use the AmeriColor food coloring. I absolutely love it. It has great bold color, but doesn't add a funky taste to your frosting. Don't be afraid to just keep adding food coloring. It may take quite a bit in order for you to achieve the color that you want. Like here I want a nice vibrant green for Christmas tree, so I'm just going to add more. The reason I like the AmeriColor food coloring so well is because I have to use far less of it than I do of the other brands to achieve the vibrant colors that I want. So even though in this making it's taking me about 80 drops of green to get the green color I want, that is still a lot less than some of the other brands. A couple of them you'd have to use an entire bottle to get that green. This is looking pretty good, but I'd still like it even darker, so I'm going to go ahead and add some more food coloring. Now I have the color where I want it, but the icing isn't thin enough yet. So we're going to go back to adding water a tablespoon at a time and just continue thinning it until it's where we want it to be. Now what I'm looking for is for the icing to relax into the bowl when I turn off the beater, and we need to add more water and keep going. So here you can see when I lift the beater up how the frosting starts to relax back in on itself, but it's still too thick. So more water and more beating. Okay, now watch the icing and see how it relaxes, but we still need to go more, so more water and more spinning. All right, so let's look at it now. Uh, let's see here. It's good, but I still think we need to thin it more. This is the part that is so finicky, and can be rather frustrating because like it's so close but not quite, and you really don't want to give up early. So let's add more water, turn it back on, and keep going. What I'm watching now is how the frosting falls off the beater and how it acts in the bowl. It should be coming off the beater in thick ribbons, which it's not quite doing here. And when I drag my spatula through the icing, the dent that is made by the spatula should fill itself back in. And we're so close. Little more water, little more mixing, and we'll see how we do. So watch here how the icing runs off the beater blade. All right, that's a nice thick ribbon. I like that. I'm also counting how long it takes for that to level out down in the bowl. And if I give the bowl just a little bit of jiggle, then it levels out pretty well. I'm just going to do just a little more water, not even a full tablespoon this time. Drawing the spatula through again. Oh my gosh, you guys, this is so close, but still not quite there. Remember, don't rush it because it'll cause you nothing but cookie nightmares if your frosting is too thick. I'm gonna add just a tiny little bit more water and see how we do. This should be it, guys. We should be good now. So let's see how it flows off the beater when we lift this up. Just a nice continuous ribbon off the beater. Drag my spatula through. That's looking really, really good. Yeah, this is great. This makes me happy. So this is where we wanted to get to. I'm going to jiggle the bowl and you can see how it all just flattens out in the bowl. Hooray, we finally got it. Yes. All right, we're just going to set this aside for a minute and I'll pull out the cookies and show you what's next. All right, we're starting with the spread consistency here. This is what I would use for making texture on cookies. So I'm just gonna, you always want to mix it up a little bit when it's been resting in the bowl, okay? And I'm gonna spread it on my cookie and you can see that this is really, really, really thick. All right. If you tried to put this on cake, it would just tear your cake apart, okay? All right. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the flat of my spatula and I'm just going to tap it on the frosting. And what it's doing is it's grabbing it and pulling it up. So this gives us a nice furry texture. So I would do this for teddy bears or Elmo or stuff like that. Okay. Next we have our thick piping consistency. This is what I make my display cakes with because it looks and it acts like buttercream, but it'll dry hard. I'm going to use a tip in a piping bag. This is a star tip. Just mix it up a little bit. And we'll scrape that into the bag here. Not going to need a whole lot just to demonstrate on this one cookie, so I'm going to cover the rest of that up. And I'm squeezing it down into my bag. All right, and now I'm just going to pipe my shell border. And what you'll notice is that the royal icing is holding its shape and it's holding its ridges. And so you're just getting these beautiful shells and they're not flattening out or running together. Now notice when I pipe the stars on there, they still have a point at the top of them. Okay? Can you see that? And at this consistency, no amount of tapping the cookie on the counter is going to flatten out those points. Now we're going to outline. I'm again going to put this into a piping bag, but I'm not going to use a piping tip this time. I'll just be snipping just the tiniest bit off of the end of the piping bag. So remember, the outline is just a bit thinner than the thick piping. And it's because this one, we don't want it to hold its ridges, okay? We just want it, we want it to hold a line, and we don't want the line to spread out flat. But we also don't want the points to remain when we start and finish a line. This consistency, this consistency is perfect for writing names, doing small detail work, and of course outlining any areas that you will be flooding. If your letters or lines are coming out squiggly despite your best effort, the opening in your bag may not be big enough. So I'm actually going to open up my bag just a little bit farther and try this again. Yeah, that works much better. I'm a little shaky myself today, so this is not the best outlining I have ever done, but it gives you an idea of what it looks like. I have a major goop up here I'm going to try and take off. The great thing about Royal Icing is if you hate what you've done is you can always just scrape it all off and start over, but this is okay for demonstration purposes. All right, I need to outline this one too so that I can demonstrate the flow technique for you. Now remember I said that if you want the outline to be the same color as your flow, then you need to color that early, like before you start thinning it out, because otherwise it'll be really hard to get the same color in the two different frostings. All right, I have another piping bag, and I, again, with no piping tip on it. I'm just going to scoop some of this into my piping bag. Now again, you're trimming a little bit off the end of the piping bag, not too much though. You can always go back and trim off more, but you can't put it back on. All right, and then I'm just going to fill in my areas here. And it really makes no difference what direction you do it in, or if you outline first and then fill in, or fill from the center out. But you'll notice how I was going back and forth making lines and they just all ran together. And then with a few taps of the cookie, you don't see the lines at all. So now I'm just grabbing a toothpick and I'm going to use that to push the green out to the white lines. And tap, tap, tap. And we're good. All right. Just like that. I'm just going to fill in this little heart here because I feel like it. Very good. Now, usually with my cookies, I don't want an outline. So I just take the flow consistency and I outline with that. All right. And then I go and I fill in. And, you know, doing that brief outline helps to keep it from going over the edge. But I just like this technique because then there's no difference between the edge of the cookie and the center of the cookie. And again, I'm using my toothpick to fill in any little spots that didn't quite get to. And tap it a couple times to get it to settle nice. And there we go. So that is making royal icing. We'll see you soon.